Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome back or welcome in to another episode of Spirit Speakeasy. It's time for another round of one of our most loved ongoing in a series, Ask a Medium Anything. This is part 5 of our Ask a Medium Anything series. And over the past couple of years of this podcast, these Q&A episodes have become a favorite way to explore the questions that you are most curious about. I take ongoing questions throughout the year and I compile them. And then periodically we do these Ask a Medium Anything episodes where I compile the most frequently asked questions. Since this is number 5 in the series, if you've missed any of the other 4, make sure you go back and check those out, especially if a question that's on your mind or heart isn't answered in this episode. It probably was already answered in a previous episode. So, like I said, this has become one of our favorite ways here on the pod to explore these questions that you have about the spirit world, spirit communication, mediumship, the unseen world. Really, no topics or questions are off limits for these Ask a Medium episodes. So, in today's episode, the questions are extra layered and heartfelt. We're talking about things like whether loved ones who were estranged or who you've never met can still communicate or come through in a reading and offer healing or messages, if spirit people ever talk to each other over there, even if they didn't get along or know each other in life, what it really means when a spirit person shares their regret and what they hope that we will do with that. And yes, whether they actually attend their own major life events or our major life events. Like, do they attend their memorial service? Do they attend other people's funerals, our weddings, our housewarmings? Spoiler alert, they do. And they sometimes commentate or make commentary on your decor or the food that you served. So they really can talk about so many things in a reading. You'll also hear stories that might surprise you. One of the questions was if spirit people have jobs on the other side. So we'll be hearing a couple stories, like, for example, a young girl in spirit who sings to babies from the other side, or a beloved brother who attended his own celebration of life to raise a glass in true honoring of his own personality. As always, these episodes are packed with real stories from my mediumship readings. Some of the details are changed to protect the anonymity and privacy of my clients, of course, but the emotions and the true message of the communications are honored and intact. So if you've ever wondered how spirit people show up, why they come through when they do, or what they're doing when they're not communicating, this one is for you. So let's dive in and have a good time with this Ask a Medium Anything part 5. So this first question I want to talk about is, can absent loved ones, like those who were estranged or in difficult relationships, even if it's someone that you never met or never knew, like a great grandma, can those types of people still come through in a session and offer healing or messages through mediumship? So the answer to this is yes, if there is a need. The way I work is based on the need of the soul. So either the need of my client or the need of the other side, the people in the spirit world, our spirit people. So if there's a need, it's fair game for anyone to come through. Often, if you didn't know them, for example, I just had this recently, a great-grandparent. If you didn't know them in life, they will often use details that you do know about them through like family stories, or they might let you know who else they're with on the other side to validate details about the family to help you validate or understand that it's truly them. They might also share details about like family challenges or family traits that are known to you, or even like family history. I have several family members on the other side that I didn't get to meet while I was here. And when they've come through in readings, it's kind of interesting some of the, family lore or family stories that they will share bits and pieces of that just couldn't be known to anyone outside of the family. So those sorts of details can really let you know, oh, okay, this is who this person is. But yes, they can come through if there's a need, if there's something they want to share, or something that you truly need to hear from them. They are still connected to us by the love that we share. So even if they didn't get to meet you, they still have an interest in you. They still have love for you. They still want to support you in your life as part of their family. So yes, they can still take that opportunity to communicate if that is the greatest need of the session. I guess I should just throw that in there as a little caveat. Like, for example, if you have someone else or a different need that happens to be the greatest need, probably that would be addressed. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that they will come through in any given session, but can they? Absolutely. It's just if there's a need that's greater than that, then perhaps that would be the need that would be addressed. For example, I'm thinking of one thing specifically that happened recently where the person that they actually really needed to hear from and know was okay did come through and communicate, and it was lovely. And then that person acknowledged the great grandparent that was there, gave some details about the family. And so in that way, they were able to acknowledge that great grandparent that my client had also been wondering about and felt like especially connected to. Okay, our next question. Do spirit people talk to each other on the other side, like within their own family groups or communities? The answer is yes, as far as I understand it, even if they're not technically family. Sometimes I've had it where, particularly if it's like a family group reading, and it might be like in-laws, sets of in-laws that they're not related. They might not have even known each other here, but on the other side, because they're spending time with us through that love that we share, they get to know each other, and they do, of course, chat. If you listen to the reincarnation episode, One to Skip a Few is what it was called. In that episode, I shared that I actually believe that in our soul groups or the communities that we come in and out of lifetimes with, I don't think that we're required to incarnate in every single lifetime that's available to us. So I believe we actually know people over there on the other side besides those that we knew in this lifetime. I believe we know lots of other people over there that we visit with and spend time with and kind of reconvene with when we return to the spirit world. I didn't say this at the top of the episode, and I should have. It was in another note that I have, not the one I'm looking at. I hope this is implied. I don't know everything. I'm always learning and growing, and these are the things I know right now in my journey and in my work. These are the things I've learned and believe right now, but there's a possibility that even in a month or a year or 10 years or, God willing, 50 years from now, you might hear me say, oh yeah, we used to think that, but now I know this. So just know that I am also not a perfect person and am also learning and growing, but I've had, a depth of experience and certainly lots of sessions to draw wisdom from, and the spirit world is always teaching me. So just to put that little disclaimer on, let's move to the next question. So we just talked about if they talk to each other on the other side and visit with each other, but do spirit people ever communicate like in a session and share regrets? And if so, what do they hope that we take from that? Okay, this is a great question. They can share about anything that they need to share about. Remember, it's based on the need. So sometimes that's our need, but sometimes that's their need. They might need to clear something up. They have a life review and learn things and come to deeper understanding about things and kind of connect those dots within their own life experience that maybe they didn't do while they were still in the physical. So yeah, they learn over there as well. And sometimes they have regrets or have things that they need to share. I have an example for this one. Not long ago, I had a session with a lovely client, and it was her best friend that came through. These two best friends had a falling out over a small miscommunication, and then one passed away suddenly, and the surviving friend was really consumed with guilt and sadness and her own regret. And as I was opening my awareness to see who I became aware of from the spirit side, I was immediately aware of this beautiful soul. Her best friend is who it turned out to be. And as the friend blended with me and started sharing details about herself and her story, the friend in the spirit world shared the story of how they had this long time wonderful friendship for like decades long friendship, and how that they initially met as work colleagues and kind of would commiserate together in a workplace that they both worked in when they were much younger together, but they stayed friends. She also helped me express details about her personality, how she was colorful and outgoing, but also had this very strong, like stubborn, spicy streak, is the way she identified it. And she also shared details about, as part of her personality, she sometimes could be unfocused or butterfly like, was I think the way that she expressed it, just really flitting from flower to flower and sometimes being a little unfocused in her personality. She also shared through the communication some details about some of the great times that they've had together as friends over the years, some of the things that they saw each other through. And then she shared details about this falling out, which is actually how I learned about it. So she went on through sharing the emotion and sharing the communication with me and helped me express some details about this falling out that they had had. She expressed that the falling out itself was over something very petty. And again, she directed me back to that stubborn, sassy streak of her personality. And this petty rift caused, unfortunately, a break in their friendship where they didn't speak for a couple of years. And as part of the communication, she acknowledged that they had just started repairing their friendship not too long ago. Within the year, they had started repairing that friendship, chatting, getting caught up, getting together little bits here and there. And then she acknowledged that she hadn't returned the last couple text messages from her friend, my client, who was sitting with me for this session. And my client started crying, and she said, "Yeah, it's been so heavy on her heart." And her friend on the other side was acknowledging she's really stressed out about this. That her friend who'd crossed over hadn't returned to these last couple messages. It was so heavy on her heart. But her friend in the spirit world made it clear that this not returning of the texts was really more about her, the one on the other side, being distracted by life. And she acknowledged again that part of her personality that's like a little butterfly that's easily distracted. And she was communicating that it had no deeper meaning than that. That she really was engaged in this friendship. She really did love her friend. She really was excited and ready to reconnect with her. And then really she just chalked it up to her butterfly like, easily distracted personality as to why she hadn't answered those couple messages. And she came through with, all of that detail and just a really clear message that she didn't want this unanswered text to be plaguing her best friend's mind and heart, and that she really just wanted to accept and claim responsibility for that, and that say that it was never it was just part of her personality, and it wasn't really intended to be about her, and wanting to take responsibility also for her part in that brief fallout that they had. So really, this reading reminded my client that, we're all human, even from the other side, we're all still human and doing our best and learning. And regrets often reflect a desire for us to, have chosen sooner to foster that connection with those we love, to speak our truth when we have it, when it's on our heart, to not let things like pride or pettiness or fear delay us from loving the people that we love and letting them know. So some people in readings from the other side, some spirit people, will directly take responsibility for something very specific, like in this case that they regret. Others might make more of a general apology, something more like an apology for like not being there for you enough, for example. But it really just depends on the nature of the reading, like their personal story. There are similarities between readings in some ways, but they're all so unique and personal and specific because based on their life, their regrets, what they've come to understand from the other side. So often, if they're sharing about regrets, it's to kind of lift a burden off of our heart or to acknowledge something that they need to acknowledge or to kind of teach us from the other side. Hey, don't create regrets for yourself. Live your life now. Love the people you love now. So it's always with the intention of healing, upliftment, if they're sharing about regrets, but they do sometimes share about regrets. It's a great question. Okay, our next question. Will crossed over loved ones attend major events like their own funerals or our weddings after their passing? I love this question. Yes, loved ones can, from the spirit world, still be present at our milestones, at memorials, at funerals, offering their support, their emotional presence, even if it's quietly in the background. I have a story for this one that I was thinking about this question. So a woman came in for a reading, hoping to hear from her younger brother who had passed away really unexpectedly. And their bond was so close. They really grew up leaning on each other and had just a special relationship. Some of it due to circumstances and some of it due to their personalities, but they were like thick as thieves, so close, and had tons of inside jokes between them. And she had been really overwhelmed with planning his memorial service because she felt like she didn't know his wishes. It was so sudden, and she just had a lot of anxiety about it. And she told me she really felt very numb the whole time and kept wondering if her brother had any idea what was happening and if she was doing the right thing for him, and if she should have done something differently. She just felt really out of sorts, and she really was hoping to hear about if he had seen it, if he knew what was going on. So that was what I didn't know, but that's how she came in. And her brother came through. He was, so to speak, loud and clear, even though it's not really how it works. He expressed and helped me share this funny, warm part of his personality. He's a bit of a smarty pants, a bit of a sarcastic, like kind of a smartass, if I'm honest, but not in a mean way, in like a funny, charismatic, charming way, actually. And he was expressing this part of his personality and then expressing gratitude for the memorial service and for the way that he was remembered. His passing was actually quite tragic in the way that it happened. And he started sharing details about the memorial service. He was helping me understand that she was responsible for choosing lots of photos and even asking extended friends and people from his life for photos and details and things, that she was really making an effort to put this photo package together. And she said yes, she had really worked hard on that. And then with his humor, he was also expressing, because he was telling me in, through the communication, through the emotion and through quick flashes of pictures and the way he was communicating, that like, hey, there was a slideshow that happened of these photos. And it wasn't just of the adult part of his life when he felt cool and when he felt like he looked, strong and like he wanted to look. He was joking and expressing that there were some pictures from his childhood, and he was helping me describe kind of like a dorky grade school type school photo where his teeth were like, kids go through that age where like their front two teeth are bucky and big and sometimes spaced out in a strange way because they're still growing. And then he was also joking about a really embarrassing baby photo that she had included that made everyone laugh. And she just burst into tears as he was expressing this, because it really, she indicated that it really let her know that, yeah, he was there, because those were very specific photos that she intentionally chose that meant something to her. She loved that school photo of him, is the way she was saying it, even though he really hated that photo. But through the humor, he was also expressing gratitude for helping people remember these other aspects of him, these different memories with him and of him through his life. So he really shared about these moments at his memorial service, his funeral. He shared how she had written a speech, and then she was so upset that one of his friends had to stand next to her at the podium and read it on her behalf, that she couldn't read it, and how he really was there supporting her, trying to wrap his love around her in those moments, even though she felt like she couldn't feel it. And then unexpectedly, he shifted, and I became aware that, okay, so this was the kind of quote unquote formal gathering. And then there was another celebration of life. And she said, yeah, there was. That was really for his closest friends. And they actually went later that weekend to a local pub that he frequented. And he was sharing, all the good times he had there and how much he loved that place. And it was kind of a bit of a home away from home for him. And he even shared that there was some sort of on one of the areas of the bar that several of them had like carved their initials in a place where you really couldn't see it. And they all came together and were telling like the real stories about him, not the ones that maybe weren't sanctioned for all of the public and the family and things. And he said, they had shots for him, and they went around and told stories, and he felt so honored. And he was saying he was there, he saw it all, he was part of it, and he was so appreciative and loving about the way that his sister honored him and all the things she did, and really wanted her to know that not only did he appreciate it and was he there, but he didn't want her to worry about that. And she said, yeah, he always was like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And so she's like, it's so like him to be saying, don't worry about it when it's such a big deal event, ceremony, right? So the client said she had hoped that he would have come to that second event, but she wasn't sure because that's where his true personality was really talked about. His favorite people showed up, but she had no way of knowing if he was actually there. So his detailed validation gave her not only peace to know that he was present, but also a sense of that he would still stick around and that he would have this ongoing relationship with her, that he wasn't going to be gone from her life completely. He just would be there in a different way. So the story really helps show that loved ones in the spirit world, they don't just attend formal events and rituals. We often find them, at the places they loved and spending time with the people that made them feel most happy or most connected. So yes, they do still attend all of the things. I feel like I have a lot of stories about this one. So if you guys want an episode of just stories of readings of spirit people sharing about events that they attended from the spirit world, I've got them all: weddings and christenings and birthday parties. And they sometimes will share details about these kinds of things. So yes, just know that they are there, they are attending, they are celebrating with the family, and really wanting to still participate and support from the other side. Okay, our next question. Do spirit people recognize or reference things that have changed since their passing, like moves, marriages, or new babies? Okay, this is kind of a continuation of that last question. So yes, they attend the big events, but also, yes, in fact, they will often share details about, for example, a grandchild that's come along since they've been crossed over, or a grandchild that was maybe little when they departed. They'll share details. Sometimes they'll even share details to validate that they're spending time with that grandchild now. They might share, like, for example, what that kiddo loves to do, or what their favorite, I've had them share what the favorite like Disney movie is. They might, if they're a little bit bigger, they might share, that they're a star athlete, or that they just had a graduation that they attended that they're so proud of. So they will share about people that have come into our lives or been born into the world since their crossing, or people that they care about in the world. And I actually have a fun story about a move, because that's another thing that comes up frequently, is people being worried. Like, does my person know that I don't live at that house anymore, that we moved to this state or to this country or to this part of town, to this new place? So during a session a while back, I became aware when I was communicating with the spirit person, this was my client's parent. I started to become aware of and asked them, did you guys just move recently within the last like couple months here, like pretty recently? And I just started being drawn to details about a move and about a new place. And so the client was like, yes, oh my gosh, we did just move into a new home like a few weeks ago, just last month. And what the loved one from the other side was communicating was that she, first of all, she came through with such a sweet, humorous, loving energy, and their loved one in spirit. I believe it was the mom. It might have been the stepmom of my clients. It was a couple that had married and just moved in together or moved house. So the loved one in spirit gave me this loving nudge of like, after showing me, oh, the move and the new house, it was in their own sense of humor of like, can you please tell them to stop worrying if I can find them or not? Like, I know they moved. I know where they are. I know about this house. And they started laughing because they said that the wife in particular, one of the wives, had been really stressed out about if the mom knew where they were. So the mom from the spirit world was showing me glimpses of this new home. She was showing me that, that there was no carpet in there, that it was really smooth flooring. And she was helping me understand this sweet little kitchen that had just a lovely window that could look out over their back garden. And but there was this little sunlit corner of that kitchen where the sun really streamed in, and that the grown kiddo who owned this house liked to sit there and read sometimes. And it's such a beautiful, like, sunlit little corner of that kitchen. The mom in spirit even commented on the boxes that they still had kind of lining one of their hallways, because I was like, do you have a bunch of boxes still kind of going down one hall? And they were like, yes, we're working on it. And the mom in the spirit world was kind of joking and humorously communicating the emotions, like, oh, you're not fooling anyone, those boxes aren't unpacked yet, and you don't even know what's in there, like. So it made it just so touching, and there was so much warmth behind the communication from the mom. And she was also sharing that this space just feels lighter, somehow feels brighter, feels like more airy, and just somehow the vibe at this place is like much more relaxing, much more peaceful. And they were validating, of course, saying like, yes, that's correct, that is how this place is. And where the other place that they just moved from felt a little bit more, maybe like a little louder, a little less peaceful. The mom from the spirit world was communicating, yeah, if you're quiet, especially in the mornings there, you can hear all these birds outside, particularly in that kitchen because of that back garden. And my client was just so touched because she was saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe like my mom's with me there, because that is exactly how it is. I sometimes, when I have time on the weekend, I will sit in that corner and I will hear the birds and be, just reading or doing whatever she's doing. So she also was able to validate that she had been really wondering, and it had been heavy on her heart, if her mom would still be able to reach her, send her signs, know where she was, because she'd moved. So not only did this communication, these messages, bring tears and relief, it was a really powerful reminder that love transcends location, and that spirit people are aware of and even celebrating our new chapters alongside us. So hopefully that helps with that answer. Our next question: do spirit people have jobs or roles on the other side? What are they doing when they're not communicating with us or sending us signs? Okay, this is a great question. So I can't necessarily prove this to you, but several spirit people over the years have made me aware of different things. Like, I had one recently that was a person who was kind of on the younger side of their life and was a world traveler, a bit of a digital nomad, if you will. And this person had so many places on their list that they still wanted to see. So as part of their reading, not only were they validating, the travels they had done, and that they really enjoyed travel, and it was such a special part of them feeling free and feeling like they're getting to experience lots of life. So they shared that the places that were still on their list, and they had me name a couple of those places that they still had on their travel list that they were actually visiting now from the spirit world, that they were getting to take tours and go into kind of behind the scenes places that they might have not been able to see in physical form. So sometimes they're taking tours and traveling and experiencing things in that way. And I kind of thought of a couple as far as like the job thing. Some of them will express that they have a job or something that they're working on the other side. Some will not. Again, a lot of this is based on need, so it might not come up in every single communication because it's really about them expressing what they need to express or what we need as healing for our own souls, even if we might think we want to hear about something, but if we really need to hear about something else, that's the direction it will go. But I was thinking about two spirit people in particular, and they both just happen to be young people. But I think we all could have a job over there if we want to. So they don't always share this type of information, but occasionally I've had these sorts of details come through. So I was first thinking about this young person that had a really tragic overdose as part of their passing. And that person had expressed to me that they help young people who have similar struggle as they did in the world, similar passing, and that their parent had actually kind of taken on this charge as part of their own healing. And of course, the parent who was my client was able to validate all of this. And their kiddo from the other side, who was a grown kiddo, just a younger person, was expressing that the parent had really been working with some organizations to like spread the word, to share the story of what happened in their family, to create awareness, to lend their child's story to anyone who needed it, to help them understand, to help them grow, to really be a champion of supporting people who struggle with addiction and substance use and people who experience overdose from the family, etc. So this young person on the other side was validating all of this. And then they were sharing it in a way of like, I help my parent from the other side, and we're a team. We're a team in this work that we're doing to help save other people and help support other people. And when a family is really struggling, and that person does ultimately cross over, even though my parents helping on this side, I help on the other side, and I help to support those other young people that are crossing over in similar ways and from similar struggles that I had, and I help support them in their healing and kind of show them the ropes, so to speak, which I thought was very sweet. And their parent did indicate that this young person was really a mentor and wanted to help others, and that this was truly also a part of their personality naturally, and that they really inside, they hadn't shared it with anyone, but this parent did feel like they were teammates in this work and didn't feel like they were doing it all on their own. So I loved that their kiddo on the other side gave that validation for them, that's something that they had held privately in their heart as just like an idea, and hadn't even shared it with anyone. The other like spirit job story that came to my mind was of a young lady. She's still a teen at the time of her passing, and she was sharing, the details of her passing. And she had a really tough illness, and was kind of a really shy, gentle person by nature anyway. And as part of her sharing about her story, she was also sharing that she goes and sings to the little babies in the NICU, the babies who have to go in the special area of the hospital right after they're born, neonatal intensive care. And she was sharing, I go in those NICUs, the intensive care for babies, and I sing to all the babies who are in there. And my client gasped and said, oh my gosh, she loved to sing, but she was so painfully shy that she would sing to her baby dolls. She would line up her dolls when she was little, and even in her like young teens, she would line up her dolls and she would sing to them because she was too scared and shy to even, like, she wouldn't even sing in front of her own family. So this was so validating to this person in a way that I could have never even imagined, because it was so much of what they loved when they were here, this young lady who had crossed over, and so much of how she did her singing when she was here, that my client was like, I'm not at all surprised that that's what she's doing. That just is so quintessentially her, and was also validating that like she's an incredible little singer and had the voice of an angel, is the way my client said it. But just that she was so shy that she couldn't, they would hear her through the door singing, or through the shower, or, when she was singing for her baby dolls. So those are just a couple examples. But I do believe that as souls, that we do want to help and support and help others. So I feel like most of the jobs, quote unquote, I don't think it's like a job like we think of a job here. I think our souls want to help and want to support and want to give love, and want to like marinate people in all of these beautiful, tender emotions. So I think that they get to do that. Okay, hopefully that helps with that question of the jobs. Our next questions kind of go together, so I just sandwiched them together. I'm going to read them together and then we'll unpack it a little bit. Do spirit people ever preview or assist before they come through, like preparing a message together? Okay, and the other part, or it was like a separate question, but like I said, sometimes I'll put them together if they're very similar. This one is, how and why do spirit people choose to speak through mediums? Okay, so how and why do they choose to speak through mediums? And do they like assist or preview or prepare for communicating through mediums? So sometimes, as far as like how and why do they choose to communicate, sometimes, well, it's always because of a need, right? A need that they have to share something, or a need that you have or my client might have. So that's kind of the why of it, is based on the need of the soul. How are they choosing to communicate through a medium? I think this means like, how are they choosing the timing, or how are they choosing to do it? Some, I believe, are waiting for the right time. I feel like when we are still in the first initial stages of our grieving process, sometimes we might not be ready. We might not be ready to hear the details. It might be too painful. We might not be able to, there's all types of grieving, and grief manifests in all kinds of ways. And I've met some people with certain versions of grief where even if I told them a story about their loved one, they wouldn't be able to have the mental bandwidth to like think back and feel if that story happened, or remember that story, because their grief is just too heavy and they're in too much pain. So sometimes it can be right timing. And that could have to do with grief, or it could have to do with just like right timing of their life to receive the message, being ready for it, being willing to see a medium. I do believe that they choose the medium in some way. Like, I think it's the spirit people that are choosing the medium, maybe even more so than my clients who are in the physical world. Different mediums work for different people. I think it's why it's so important that there's so many types of mediums, that we all work differently. We all, of course, are human and have our own human life experience. And oftentimes I feel like mediums and spirit people, like the spirit people matches with a certain medium, because they know, oh, okay, this person's going to be able to help me express this part of my story, or this person will understand this aspect about me. Because when they're communicating with mediums, I have a little joke that I sometimes say to my clients, where I say, like, I wish that they would stand next to me and talk in my ear and wear a name tag, but it's not the way it works. Really, I sense them and feel them, and they blend the energy of their soul with the energy of my soul. So our souls are blending, and it's a soul to soul communication. It's not a human body and physical five senses communication. It's a soul to soul communication. So they're helping to help me understand the emotions that they want to express, the validations or stories or memories that they want to express. Often it's largely through the emotions. I sometimes receive quick flashes of mental pictures, or sometimes quick thought words, or even songs. But I have found that oftentimes a spirit person seems to choose a medium that has either something in common with them or some unique understanding of some aspect of them or their personality, or perhaps they know it's the right medium for their loved ones. Maybe they prefer a medium that is of a certain belief system or from a certain place or has certain cultural background or understanding. So there's lots of reasons or whys to why a spirit person chooses a specific medium, or why they choose to work through a medium. And oftentimes it's just availability. Like, they'll take the opportunity. It's why we always joke. It's why oftentimes if there's like a group reading, a bigger group reading, it's I mean, not all the time, but it's like often it's the people that got just like brought along as a guest, or like didn't even know what they were necessarily signing up for, because their spirit person will take that opportunity because they're in front of a medium. They don't necessarily even, it doesn't matter what medium it is. It's like, oh, we got them here. Let's take this opportunity to say hi and let them know that we're okay, and alleviate this grief that's on their heart, or whatever it might be. So that's part of the answer. The other part of the answer is yes, I do believe that spirit people preview or assist, as it's asked in this question, before they communicate through a medium. How does that look? So I believe it can look like when I'm in one-on-one sessions or small group readings, which is like 2 to 4 people. I believe that there are the spirit people who are actually communicating that day, like the loved ones of my clients in that appointment. And then I believe there are also other loved ones supporting the communication, helping to build the energy and hold the energy. And as part of that outer layer, if you will, of loved ones, I believe that there are people who are also there who are maybe not a part of this communication, and likely not even a part of this family or this soul group, but who are like, oh yeah, I want to learn how to do this. So I'm going to kind of like, you know how you could like audit a college class where it's like, you're not actually the one in the class, but you're just auditing it, learning, doing the work kind of in the background. So it's like that, where they're just learning how to communicate, learning, watching another spirit person blend their energy, watching how they kind of move me to say the things that they want me to say, or move the communication in the directions, and how they work with me. So I do believe that they attend one-on-one sessions. I believe sometimes they're attending demonstrations, like bigger group mediumship readings. I'm sure that you guys have seen some of the like famous mediums that come around and do like arena tours or like club tours. I think they're attending those, and even smaller group readings. I do group readings anywhere from like 2 people to like 100 people. So sometimes it's small groups of colleagues, or someone's having a birthday party and they want to do a group reading. So I think that they come to those even if they're not going to be actively communicating, but they want to kind of take it in, learn the ropes, see the behind the scenes and how it works. This is maybe a strange example. I think you guys all know my mind is kooky, but the mental picture I have is me anyway, when I used to be on the schoolyard and we would do jump rope, or I never could do the double dutch, like the 2 jump rope, but I always wanted to. But when you're doing jump rope and you have to they're spinning the rope and you have to jump in to kind of start doing the jump rope, you kind of watch from the outside. You watch the rhythm of the rope, you watch the people swinging the rope and how they're doing it and what the pattern is, and you start kind of feeling, okay, this is the rhythm of this is how this works. And then when you're ready, you might jump in and jump rope or communicate. So sort of like that, and that's a very rough around the edges sort of explanation of that. The spirit world is always helping me understand that the way our human minds kind of understand or file things is incredibly simplified compared to the complexity of all of the inner workings of all of these types of things. But in a very elementary sort of way, that's the example I have of how it works. But I do think they're coming to sessions or going to group readings. I also, and lots of mediums I know, do a meditative practice where we kind of sit with our own soul and with the souls on the other side. We're not necessarily communicating in those meditations. It's more of a practice. Sitting in the power is what it's called, or sitting in the presence. And I'm sitting with the spirit world as a world. So during that time, they can kind of come into my space, work with my guides in the background, and start learning how to communicate with me. So I think there are various opportunities that they take to learn to work with the mediums, and learn to blend their energy and learn how to get to. Okay, another little thing I should probably mention in here, even though it's going to take a second. As part of the mediumship communication, when I receive those mental pictures, like I was talking about, how those work is sort of like if I was telling you a story about my day and I was saying, oh, I went to get a soda at the convenience store. You could imagine in your mind's eye me going and opening a ice chest and grabbing a soda, right? So it's sort of like that. It's a mental picture, but it's almost always things that I have already experienced, like my memories, my life, things that I know, houses I'm familiar with. Even if I totally forgot about that place or saw it in a movie when I was 7, they can use anything that's sort of in my memory bank. So they need to know, okay, what are her memories that are close to mine, so I can trigger that memory or touch into this area in my medium so that I can get her to express this story that I want to express about an adventure we took, a trip we took, for example. So they really are doing a lot of work, not just in the session, but preparation for the session. I believe that they do have to learn how to communicate through a medium. And I believe that they take time and spend time learning how to work with individual mediums and how to communicate, to really take that opportunity, take that fleeting moment of that mystical experience, because spirit communications are a mystical experience. I know we kind of maybe dismiss that part of it, especially in like a pop culture sort of way, but it is a mystical experience communicating with an unseen person from another realm. Like it's a lot happening. It's not just, oh, well, can you tell me how tall they are? Oh, well, can you tell me what's their middle name? It's not that. It's a blending of souls to really express an emotional communication, their story, what's on their agenda to express, and the way they want to share it. And they're working very hard between all the research and development they have to do to learn how to communicate, and then if I'll speak for myself, the patience that they have with me as a medium to get me blended with them and to help me express what they need to express in the communication. So yes, they do prepare, preview, and work behind the scenes before communicating themselves, I believe. Even if it's, remember, time is different over there. So even if their passing is very recent, they still have ways of doing that. And then I believe that the mediums have a spirit guide that also assists in the background with the communication, that might kind of coach a little bit from behind the scenes and saying like, okay, you got to work with my medium like this, or that is just the way my mind wants to explain it. But I do know for me, that is how it works. So hopefully that is helpful as an answer to this. This is sort of an additional part that kind of goes right along with these questions. So I want to squeak it in here. What makes one spirit person come through in a reading and not another? Okay. This really, again, is about the need of the soul, either the need of the spirit person or the need of the soul who's on this side, right? So you might want to hear from everyone you've ever known or everyone who's over there, but oftentimes it will be those that need to communicate. Sometimes it's the person we need to hear from. Sometimes it's others that will join into the communication to help build the energy, to help the medium in some capacity. But if they're communicating, there's usually a tie into the actual need of the session as part of it. And sometimes the need is like, sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it's not. So sometimes the need might even reveal itself later, where, maybe the first person that's communicating in the session is like a great aunt that we didn't really think was going to communicate, that we were at peace with. And then maybe as we're sharing about our session later, it's someone else that actually needed to know that that person was okay. It doesn't mean the whole session is going to be about that person, but there's usually some sort of need that's being addressed, even in a low key behind the scenes way. So usually the spirit people that do communicate, it's about the need, either the need of my client or the need of them, something they need to express. And again, it really expands into this idea of readiness. Are you ready for the communication? Is this something you're available and ready to hear about? Are they ready? Is it time for them? Is the divine timing of it all, right? Is the purpose there? Is the need there, right? Not just a random curiosity, not just oh yeah, I don't really feel like I have any need, but I'm just kind of curious who's around. Those aren't going to be the same as when there's an actual need, or when the spirit person is the one kind of nudging someone in to see a medium. And sometimes there can be a client that might come in that isn't fully ready. And so their session might only go to a certain point, and that's the point it can go to based on the energy of that day, based on their emotional availability, based on what they can receive, what they're ready to hear about. And that's why sometimes someone might have one session and then process for a long time before they have another session. And then in that next session, it might be totally different, and they might be ready for more healing, for more communication. So it really just depends on the need of the spirit person and the need and readiness, or like energetic or emotional availability of the client. That is what I find really seems to make one person communicate and not another. And the rest is, I would say, the medium, because sometimes I'm aware of people in the room, spirit people, who are not blending with me to communicate. Sometimes I might have worked with several spirit people and there's still someone that they were hoping to hear from that I just hadn't been aware of because I was busy communicating with these people. So it doesn't mean that they're not there, even if the medium's not aware of them. But there is a possibility that the medium could just not be aware of some of the people who are there in the room from the spirit side. This last and final question, as we're wrapping up this episode, is: can spirit people tell us the day that we will die, or warn us about when our time is coming near? Okay. The quick answer is no. I believe that no one will ever tell you the timing of your passing. It's a huge red flag if someone is giving those types of details. And to be quite honest, often if a medium has some understanding of those details, they won't give them, because it's just not our role. But spirit people generally will not tell you when you're going to pass away. I don't believe that they have a huge advanced warning. I think they might know, I think we've all had people, or had friends that had people that we knew that they were unwell, that their time was nearing, that they didn't have long. Perhaps doctors even said, well, it could be any time within this next couple weeks. So at that point, I think the spirit person might have more of an idea of when-ish, but I think only our divine creator knows the exact moment that we will be born and the exact moment that we will go back. I don't believe our spirit persons over there are omniscient, like all knowing. I don't believe that they have all knowledge of all future potentials of everything that could ever possibly happen. And I don't believe that they give us the day and time of our passing. Also, it can alter free will. So there is a lot of rules is not the right word, but there are some limitations around this idea of free will, meaning we are required to have free will choices here. And if they're coming in, even if they did know, for example, and are telling us, oh, you're going to pass away on such and such a date in 2077, let's just say, you might change your free will. You might make different choices. You might address things in a timing that's not in alignment with the things you truly need to unfold and express because of a prediction like that. Messages are really focused on healing. Communications are focused on love, not fear, and not fear-based things like this. So I am very wary, and I would suggest you to be very wary of anyone who is telling you that they can tell you the exact date that you will pass away, or the exact timing in which someone else will pass away. I would just be very wary of information like that. I don't know that anything is impossible, so I won't take it that far. But I've never had it happen, and none of the mediums that I know are giving exact passing dates and times to people. And I just don't believe that that's part of the need that the spirit world is communicating. That feels more like a human desire, right? Meaning that might be something we want to know, but is that something that our soul needs to know or that our soul needs us to know? I don't think so. And the other piece of it is I think our soul does know. Meaning I feel like particularly for, like we were talking about, people who are already in their final stages, their final days, and it's becoming obvious medically that they don't have a lot of time. I think their soul does know where that exit point will be. Maybe souls on the other side are aware of it, but I don't think they're sharing that type of information. I just don't think that's an important part of our journey. I really feel like they're more encouraging us to live, right? To live the lives we're intended to live, to share our emotions, to step out of our comfort zone, to be vulnerable, to engage in those hard conversations and love people even when it's challenging and not give up. So from my perspective, I really feel like the majority of the communications, even when really challenging things are touched on, even when they share about hard regrets, hard passings, challenging emotions, challenging personalities. Actually, I'm going to do a whole separate episode about our personalities when we're on the other side. So just get a little teaser, get excited about that. But I really feel like they are there more to encourage us. And that's, even though readings sometimes are addressing difficult things, the undercurrent and the intention and the result is really support and love and kindness and healing amongst other things. So hopefully you have enjoyed this Ask a Medium Anything episode. If you have questions that weren't addressed in this episode 5 of our Ask a Medium series, check out those other 4 episodes in the Spirit Speakeasy podcast lineup, or submit your question. So if you don't see it in this episode and it wasn't in any of the other 4 episodes, submit your question to me. You can either submit it to admin@joyfulmedium.com or joy@joyfulmedium.com, and we will see it either way. And I'm always compiling this list. Oftentimes there are several questions that are quite similar or that are essentially asking the same thing. So I will mush them all down into one question. So please don't be afraid to ask anything related to the spirit world or loved ones who've crossed over or grieving or mediumship or anything of the sort, because I think this is such a fun place for us to get to dive into these things and explore these things and to ask the questions that sometimes we kind of hold within our heart and really wonder about, that we might kind of stew on, like wondering where they are or what they're doing, or why someone might come through or might not come through. So hopefully this has like lifted your emotional load a little bit and lightened your heart. And if your heart wasn't heavy to begin with, hopefully it's just reminded you how present your own loved ones are, how present your spirit people are. And I always say this, but you have access to your own loved ones. They spend time with you. If you come for a reading with me or another medium, just know that your loved ones come with you. If we don't have some special backstage access to them, you have access to them just as much as we do. It's just the communication is in a different way from a medium versus the spending time with them on our own, but you have full access to them. They spend time with you. They know where you are, even if you've moved. They attend significant events. And the truth is they attend even unsignificant events like just a weekend barbecue. So just know that your loved ones are with you. They are growing and having experiences on the other side. They can communicate really profound things through readings and even through just spending time with you or sitting with you. So hopefully this has kind of expanded your mind about the spirit world, moved your curiosity. Maybe you're even thinking about your own loved ones and what jobs they might have on the other side. You can send the thought to them from your heart and just see what volleys back. See what pops into your mind as what types of jobs they might be doing on the other side, if that's something you've been curious about. Thanks for being here with me today. As always, I appreciate you so much, and I hope you know that I'm thinking of you and I create these episodes with you in mind. So if there's something else you're wanting to hear about, please don't be afraid to let me know. I hope you're enjoying your summer. If you're listening to this at the time it is released, please know I am sending you big hugs, wishing you lots of love. Bye for now from inside Spirit Speakeasy.